It's the advent of Cyber Day 13. I'm JB, this is Cyber Insight, and today we're going to be talking about intrusion detections and some defensive strategies we can use to help protect our networks. I'm going to hop over my browser, but as always, whenever we do any of these TryHackMe walkthroughs, if you have any questions, please throw those down in the comment section and we'll help each other out. So let's take a look at what we have going on with the story today. So it's to the pots, through the walls. So a little bit on the background of where we're at with Task 19. The proposed merger and suspicious activities have kept all teams busy and engaged. So that the best festivals companies' systems are safeguarded in the future against malicious attacks, McSkitty assigns the B team, led by McHoneybell, to research and investigate mitigations and proactive security. The team's efforts will be channeled into the company's defensive security process. You are part of the team, a security researcher tasked with gathering information on defense and mitigation efforts. So let's take a look at the objectives that we're going to be covering in this task. So we're going to be looking at the diamond model and specifically how we can use it to understand incident analysis, but also how we can use it to help identify defensive strategies that can be applied within our environment. Lastly, we're going to look at a few different tools that we can put into the network. Really excited about this. Looking at some firewall rules and also how to use a honeypot as a defensive strategy. So as we dive into this, I think this is actually really cool this year. TryHackMe added this cool little graphic to let us all know what we need to turn on to get this lab ready. I know this can kind of be a little bit confusing for folks if this is the first time that they've done the advent of cyber or used any TryHackMe rooms. So what we want to kick off right now, because normally it takes a few minutes to spin these up, is you're going to want to go all the way to the top, and there should be a start attack box up here, and you can go ahead and you can click that. I've already done that, so you see that I have the show split view button here instead. And then there's also an attack machine that we would want to hit as well if you go ahead and click this start machine right there, and then you will be good to go with that, and we can dive in a little bit into the diamond model while those machines get spun up. So let's see, introduction. Intrusion detection prevention is a critical component of cybersecurity aimed at identifying and mitigating threats. When set up early, intrusion detection becomes a proactive security measure. However, in our story, the best festival company has to develop ways to improve their security given the magnitude of recent breaches. In this epic task, we'll embark on a thrilling journey through fundamental concepts, detective strategies, and the application of the diamond model of intrusion analysis in defensive security. So when we're looking at incident analysis, consider the cyber threat events that have taken place through all the previous tasks up to this point within the best festival company and our Antarctic crafts. We have identified some clues and artifacts, but we've yet to kind of piece them together to lead us to the attacker, kind of putting together the entire story. So we need a framework that's going to help us take all these bits of information and paint a clearer picture for us. And once we have that picture, then we're going to be able to develop some better defensive strategies to implement. So today we're going to be looking at the diamond model. It's very simple, but can be very impactful in telling the story and helping us understand what it is that we're up against, what we're trying to protect, and some different lenses to look through as far as improving our defenses. So it's composed of four main facets. We have adversary, victim, capabilities, and infrastructure. And so far, as we've gone through these other tasks, we've been able to hit on what some of those different things are, but we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive here just to make sure that we're all on the same page with what those are so that we can develop the right types of security mitigations. So from an adversary perspective within the storyline, we've discovered a suspected insider threat causing trouble within the best festival company and interfering with the proposed merger of Antarctic crafts. This individual, who we'll call the adversary operator, is not just an ordinary troublemaker. They are the clever attackers and malicious threat actors responsible for cyber attacks or intrusions. Adversary operators can be just an individual, or it could be a group or group of individuals working together with the aim of disrupting the operations of another group, which would be the victim. That's not the only type of adversary. The adversary customer is another intriguing player in this grand scheme. They are the ones who reap the rewards from the cyber attack and can consolidate the efforts of various adversary operators. So they might be the ones who are paying the operators to go and do all this malicious activities against our organization. I kind of like this collection of adversaries working together to orchestrate widespread security breaches as something similar to an advanced persistent threat or an APT. So the victim is obviously us as a company, the best festival company. But it's also worth pointing out that with a victim similar to the adversaries, it could just be an individual, could be an organization, could be a country, could be any group of singular or multiple individuals. The infrastructure that's being used is the next thing that we're going to look at in the diamond model here. Every adversary needs tools. And so this could be hardware or it could be software. Could be something that is hosted with a service provider out on the internet. Could be in a data center, could be in a cloud. Within this particular storyline, we see that the twist that we uncovered was the USB drive that Tracy McGreedy had plugged into the environment. But we need to be aware that that might just only be one part of the story. While plugging in a malicious USB that might do something, it's more than likely going to be beaconing back to something else that resides on an outside network, and that could be in the cloud or some other type of infrastructure that's controlled by the adversaries or intermediaries. So we have the victim, we have the infrastructure, we have the adversary, and the last part of this diamond model is capabilities. And there could be a whole lot of different capabilities. These are kind of what we're aligning back to TTPs, or tactics, techniques, and procedures. These could be a whole collection of different things. It doesn't mean that an adversary is only going to use one of these, probably going to be using multiple types of capabilities. Some examples that they provide here are adversary using phishing, so using deceptive emails or messages to try to trick someone into providing some sensitive information or clicking on a link that might download something malicious that could give the adversary a foothold within the environment. Exploiting vulnerabilities could be another capability. So that could be exploiting vulnerabilities that are in software or hardware that might be known already, or maybe it's something like a 0-day where all of us good guys out here trying to defend things might not necessarily know that that vulnerability exists. Social engineering, kind of similar to phishing in some ways, but it doesn't necessarily have to rely on email. Could be actually giving someone a phone call or some other type of interaction with an individual that makes them give unauthorized access to the adversary. Malware attacks, so things like viruses, worms, or ransomware. Again, this could be coupled with some other type of attack. So if we're doing maybe phishing and there's some type of malware attached to the email that's sent, someone clicks on it, downloads it. That's how I kind of see that capabilities can be stacked by adversary. Insider threat is someone who is within an organization and utilizes the privileges that they have within that organization to do harm, whether it's steal data, compromise systems, or disrupt operations. And the last example they give here is denial of service attacks. So this might be where adversary tries to overwhelm an application or a website or an entire network with the idea of causing some type of disruption that may impact the organization's business or mission. So while we use the diamond model to look at things from an attack perspective, we can also use it, flip it from a defensive perspective. So we're going to harness the power of the diamond model's components, particularly capability and infrastructure, for our defensive endeavors. So a few different things that we're going to look at specifically is defensive capabilities and defensive infrastructure. From a best festival company perspective, we have a few different defensive capabilities. And if you've been doing the advent of cyber for some time, you know that for many years we've been running into some issues as far as malicious things happening up in the North Pole. So after many years and a lot of lessons that have come along, they've been able to develop some pretty strong defensive capabilities, including a threat hunting team. So this is a team there that is proactive and has an iterative process that is actively searching for signs of malicious activities or security weaknesses within their environment. So organizations can detect adversaries early in their attack lifecycle by conducting regular threat hunts. Threat hunters will use behavioral patterns to identify advanced threats and improve incident response. As I said, since we've been doing this for a bit, they probably have some pretty well-defined hunting playbooks specifically designed to the different types of data and applications that they have in their environment that seem to be pretty rich for attackers to want to bring down around Christmas time. The second defensive capability that they have is vulnerability management. And that's looking kind of at a structured process for identifying, assessing, prioritizing, mitigating, monitoring vulnerabilities in organization, system, and application. This could be something related to patch management and vulnerability scanning, but it's not just one or both of those things. It's kind of a more high-level approach to everything in the organization that could have some type of weakness that could be exploited. So definitely doing the vulnerability scanning helps out with that, prioritizing vulnerabilities based off of their severity and likelihood of being compromised, along with the potential impact and what it is that they are offering up or providing services for or protecting. So have to take all those into account when making decisions on what needs to be prioritized to be fixed first. Continuous monitoring, integration with threat intel feeds, and periodic penetration testing are other things that organization can do to help improve their security posture. And then obviously the communications reporting and accountability that ends up getting fed up to management to help make the right decisions and get the budgets in place to be able to do all of these wonderful things. So that was defensive capabilities. Let's look at defensive infrastructure through the lens of the diamond model. So we can construct their bastion of defense fortified with tools and infrastructure to repel cyber attacks. So kind of doing defense in depth, both with hardware and software, deploying that within the environment. A whole bunch of different things we can do here related to intrusion prevention, intrusion detection, anti-malware, firewalls, whole bunch of different things that kind of feed into that, and obviously the logging that goes along with all of that. The objective here is to impede attackers and stop them from being able to get and reach their goal. The strategy serves as a deterrent to the attacker, making it more difficult to allow them to carry out their intended activities, and then also provide some tripwire and level of alerting that goes back to the defenders. So in this particular lab, we're going to be doing two different things. We're going to be looking at firewalls and honeypots. So first, looking at firewalls, we're going to talk a little bit about what it is and then give some examples of those. So firewall is pretty much a security device that sits within a network that allows certain traffic to go back and forth, normally based off of IP address, ports, and protocol information. We might see this at different points within a network, but more often than not, you're going to definitely see it at the edge of a network as it connects to the internet. So there's a few different types of combinations of firewalls, and it could be a hardware firewall. It's going to be protecting a whole network. It could be a software firewall that maybe we implement on a particular host, maybe something like IP tables or Windows firewall, or some type of combination. We also can virtualize firewalls, and you might see those running on VMware or in some other type of hypervisor. So the presence is vital and a cornerstone of cybersecurity defense in depth strategies. And there's a few different kind of levels. Kind of the basic level is kind of a stateless or packet filtering firewall. All that cares about is IP address, port, and protocol. But it doesn't really have any context as far as understanding sessions between hosts. So it's okay, and it does a good job, but there's a lot of configurations to make sure that the return traffic from the destination is allowed back through. And a perfect example of this is if you've ever done anything with networking devices, if you've ever created an access control list on a networking device, a switch or a router, those are stateless packet filtering rule sets, and in essence, a stateless firewall. The next level that's a little bit more advanced and what we normally see in anything that's packaged as an actual firewall is going to be stateful inspection. And it's a little bit more sophisticated and actually keeps track of the sessions between hosts. So if you have an endpoint and it wants to go communicate with a server, let's just say it's a web server, it's going to send that traffic to that particular IP address or a particular port. That stateful firewall is going to keep a table of that communication, and it knows that within a certain period of time, you should be expecting the response traffic from that server back to the host. And by doing that, it will allow that traffic back through without having to have an actual static firewall rule that's allowing that return traffic. A proxy service looks at filtering messages at the application layer. It also will do some deep packet inspection and a little bit more granular control over the types of traffic that are going over that session. So maybe you can block certain types of websites or certain types of files that are being sent. A web application firewall is used specifically for protecting traffic going to web servers. And normally it's going to be doing the rules as far as ports and protocols and things like that, but more specifically, it's going to be looking for common types of web attacks. So it's going to protect against denial of service attacks, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and things like that. And the last one is a next generation firewall. And normally, that's just a firewall that's able to do a whole bunch of these different things all packaged together. Depending upon the licensing that you have for it, you normally can get your stateful inspection and some web application services with that. And then it might also have IDP and IPS with that as well. So that's more often than not, if you go and buy a new firewall, especially for like an enterprise style firewall, it's going to be a next gen firewall. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the type of firewall that they are using within the Best Company environment. Very, very simple. They're UFW, which works on Ubuntu. So we're going to hop over into the attack box and SSH over into today's machine and look at some firewall configurations to get comfortable with using UFW. So over on the attack box, we are just going to go open up a terminal. I will make this a little bit bigger, make it so you can see this pretty good. And let's see, SSH. We'll see what the account is that we're going to be using. Twinkle. And the IP address was 10.10.25.30. This is my IP address for my machine. Yours is going to be different than this. So the username and password is going to be the same for you, but the IP address that you're going to be SSHing to is different. So just make sure that you take the IP address that's going to end up popping up in this box within your browser. And we're going to go ahead and hit yes. And the password was Twinkle star with Twinkle and star capital. We can see that we are good there. Let's just see the directory that we're in. We're in the Twinkle directory. Now let's take a look and see what they had us doing with this firewall. So we are going to configure the firewall to block traffic. Twinkle knows that the Uncomplicated firewall is a default firewall configuration tool for Ubuntu hosts, and she decides to use it for this experiment. Initially, it's turned off by default, so we can check the status by running the command below. If you're unfamiliar with UFW, it pretty much uses IP tables underneath the hood, but it's a lot easier, a little bit more simplified than using IP tables. UFW status. Okay, and we can see that the firewall is in fact inactive. We currently don't have any rules, so we can define default rules to allow or block traffic. They can be set to deny all incoming connections and allow outgoing connections. So if we wanted to do that, we could go UFW default, allow outgoing, and this is going to just allow all traffic outbound. And then inversely, if we wanted to block all incoming traffic, UFW default deny incoming. Now, if we don't want to have to keep doing the sudo command and putting in passwords and stuff like that, we can go sudo su. And now we're root, and we don't necessarily have to worry about continuing to put that password in. So let's go UFW default deny incoming. There we go. Additionally, we can add, modify, and delete rules by specifying an IP address, port number, service name, protocol. In this example, we can add rules to allow legitimate connections coming in on port 22, which would be for SSH. So we can go UFW allow 22/TCP. And then we also can do a little bit more complex stuff if we want to deny a particular IP address. So traffic coming from this address. If we also wanted to do it specifically to an interface, we could specify that. So inbound on ETH0 and that. So if we want to actually see the rule sets, we're going to turn on the firewall at this point. UFW enable. Got to be careful. If you're turning this on and you aren't allowing SSH into your box, you could be in trouble, but we did put that in, so I'm going to do that. Okay, so if we do want to see the rules that are there, we can go UFW status verbose, and we can see that we are allowing SSH or TCP/22 inbound. And then if we want to just wipe all the rules, we could just do a UFW reset. Yes. Cool. Now, something else that's worth taking a look at, if you wanted to see some specific commands, the man page is always a good thing for that. So you go man UFW, and you can poke through this. Sometimes this is kind of dry to go through. I also found this cool UFW firewall command cheat sheet. I'm actually going to put a link for this in the video description, so maybe this will help you out a little bit. It kind of gives some examples of what the different commands do. So we've covered the firewalls. The next thing that Van Twinkle was going to look at was doing a honeypot. So honeypot is kind of interesting. It normally is going to be some type of device that looks enticing to attackers, and you set it up so that it has certain ports open. And normally you're going to do some type of alerting on them interacting with that particular box. And what that does is it, in essence, provides a tripwire for your defenders to know that somebody's poking around where they shouldn't. There's two different types of honeypots that they want to talk about. Low interaction honeypots. They artfully mimic a simple system like a web server or database. They gather intelligence on the attacker's behavior, detect the new attack techniques. So really what you're going to get from that is like IP address, port. You might be able to get like web browser agent, things like that. A high interaction honeypot take deception to new heights and emulate complex systems like operating systems and networks. They collect meticulous details on attacker behaviors and study their techniques to exploit vulnerabilities. So we're going to be looking at kind of a low interaction honeypot here. And this is one, a tool called PenTBox. It's already installed on the VM that we're using today. I'm going to put a link for this in the video description as well if you want to read a little bit more about it and how you can go about installing it on your own stuff. So when we go and we run this, it's going to pop up in a menu. So it has a honeypot, but also has a few other tool sets on there that we aren't necessarily focusing on today. So we're going to select the honeypot, and then we have the option to choose the auto configuration or manual configuration. Manual configuration allows us to allocate which ports to open and a custom message to display. So accompanying these options, log data will be collected and displayed on the terminal for every intrusion. In reality, you're going to want to have that log data sent back to your defenders within your environment. So the active honeypot, we can attempt to connect to the VM, navigate to the attack box browser, and we should end up seeing a message crafted here. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this. So it is the .pentbox.rb within this folder. So let's see if we can find that. So we were here. We're going to see what we have available here. So we're going to cd into PenTBox. And we're going to cd into PenTBox 1. There we go. All right, so I am going to run the honeypot here. Remember, if you haven't sudo to root, then you're going to have to type sudo in the front of this. I'm not going to have to do that, so we can just go / PenTBox RB. We are going to go network tools. We're going to go honeypot. We're going to go manual configuration. Go 8080. And that message, I think we said Santa is gone for the holidays. Good luck. Okay, yes, save the log. We can save it there. Activate beep sounds with intrusions, why not? Okay, so it says Honeypot is activated on port 8080. We should be able to go. Pop open the browser. Let's see. And we should be able to go 10.10.25.30:8080. Oh, it does help when I get the IP address right. Let's try that. And there's our message. Santa's gone for the holidays, good luck. If we go back and we look at what we got here, intrusion attempt detected. So it gives the IP address, gives the user agent from the web browser. So those are kind of good information to be able to collect there. So we looked at doing the firewall, we looked at doing the honeypot. Let's go ahead and take a look at what it is that we actually have to do to answer these questions. Van Twinkle's challenge. After learning about firewalls and honeypots, Van Twinkle puts his knowledge into practice and sets up a simple website to be hidden behind some firewall rules. You can deploy the firewall rules by executing the Van Twinkle's rules.sh script within the home / Van Twinkle directory. Task is to update the firewall rules to expose the website to the public and find the hidden flag. So let's answer these. Which security model is being used to analyze the breach and defense strategy? So that was the diamond model. Which defense capability is used to actively search for signs of malicious activity? So if you remember when we were looking at the different capabilities, threat hunting was the one that was proactive and actively searching for things. All right, what are our main two infrastructure focuses? Answer 1 and answer 2 is the format. So that would be firewall and honeypot. We'll see if it needs S's at the end or not. Nope, okay. Which command is used to block traffic? Should be deny, I believe. Okay, and then there's a flag in one of the stories. Can you find it? So what we need to do is we need to go run this script and then maybe do some updates to the firewall to be able to do what we need to do. So let's move back over here and we can make this a little bit bigger. Now we want to get rid of this honeypot. So we can go exit, or let's try Control C. There we go. Okay, and let's clear this. And let's take a look. UFD status, just to make sure that we don't have it turned on. Okay. Let's go back up a little bit in the directory. So I'm just going cd space ... And every time I do that, it's moving back up into the directory to get closer to the top. So just for kicks and giggles, let's take a look at what this bash script is doing here. Let's go cat Van Twinkle. Okay, so it's going to turn off the firewall, is what that force reset. It's going to turn off the firewall, get rid of the rules. It's going to allow all incoming, allow HTTP, allow SSH, and then deny FTP, which is 21, deny anything from port 8088, and deny 8090, and then enable the firewall. Now, if we didn't know what particular ports were open and listening on this, so it looks like it'd be SSH and HTTP, but we don't know necessarily whether those are the particular rules that we need to have, that's actually what the firewall or what the web server is using. We just know that this is what is allowed through here. So if we want to figure out what maybe we needed to add, if there's something that's missing here, we can go back here on the attack box and we can scan the box to see what ports are open. So we're going to use nmap, pretty simple. We could do a whole bunch of different commands if we were looking for specific things with nmap. If you're not familiar with nmap, TryHackMe has a whole bunch of different rooms you can check out. A lot of them use nmap. I've actually done a whole bunch of different rooms on TryHackMe with that use nmap, so you can go ahead check those out. But what I did want to share was this nmap cheat sheet, which makes it a lot easier when you're trying to do very, very specific things. But today we don't necessarily need to do that. We're just going to go nmap and the IP address 10.10.25.30. Okay, so what we have going on here of what's actually open and running on this server is 8090. So that is being denied in this rule set here on the firewall. So let's go ahead and enable this. So we are going to go UFW. Actually, we're just going to run the script. So we are here. We already are root, so we're just going to go van twinkle rules.ssh like that. Remember, if you aren't root and you're still van twinkle, you're going to have to go sudo space and then the rest of this here, the period and then / and the rest of the name of the script. Okay, may disrupt existing SSH connections. That's fine. We're going to hit yes. Let's clear this. We should be able to go UFW status verbose. And there we can see that really all we're allowing in is 80 and 22, even though when we did that nmap scan, we saw that 8090 was the port that was open on the server that we probably need to be able to connect to. So let's go ahead and add that rule in there. So UFW, I believe it is allow. We can even go back to this guy here, allow. It's going to be 8090 / TCP. Okay. Rule updated. If we want to see that again, we could see there. And now it is allow in. Okay, so we should be able to go back to our browser. Should be able to go 10.10.25.30 / 8090. And look at that. We got the website. So Santa's Enchanted Workshop. Looks like some post by Van Twinkle. Supposedly, there is a secret phrase or flag in here in one of these. So let's see if we can find it. It's probably going to look just like something like that. Okay, let's copy that. And we can just take this like this. drop it in there, and we can submit that. Awesome. So they also say if you want to, you can go check out the network hardening room. That'd be pretty good. Yeah. So that should be it. Appreciate you for dropping in. Hope you enjoyed this. If you haven't checked out any of my other TryHackMe room walkthroughs, definitely go do that. If you hung around all this way, appreciate it if you smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, and enjoy the rest of the advent of cyber. All right, take care.